The stories that always capture my attention, especially when I see the headline, is when children are starved by their parents because it's unnecessary. To me, it shows a big level of being cruel to children, to being cruel to humanity. And I just don't think that people like that deserve an opportunity to ever roam around in our society again. And I think that is going to be a perfect description of this little girl's father. What this baby went through, no child should go through. I mean, you can see like it looks like she was already in a little bit of bad condition here, but she's such a beautiful little angel. But let me tell you guys about her story. But let me give you a quick disclaimer. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. And of course, I'm getting this story from one of my favorite sources, which is Law and Crime. Thank y'all so much for the work that you do. A father in Georgia who was recently charged with murder had so badly malnourished, was recently charged with murder, had so badly malnourished and neglected his 4-year-old daughter. I don't know why they wrote it like that. That the girl had less than an ounce of water in her belly at the time of her death. Now, I don't know really what the average is, but clearly we know that that is not normal. That is really, really bad. So she was murdered and malnourished. She was starved. The shocking detail is that one of many that emerged nearly a month after the little girl by the name of Treasure McWeay. Let me see if I can get that baby's face back up here for you. That's the father, Rodney McWeay, just an idiot. But this little angel right here, that is 4-year-old Treasure McWeay. And he treated her like trash. He didn't treat her like treasure at all. And she was pronounced dead at Children's Hospital in Atlanta on December the 11th. And her father, Rodney McWeay, was subsequently arrested and charged with murder on December the 21st, according to Atlanta police report. McWeay is charged with 13 other counts, including first and second degree child cruelty, kidnapping, and false imprisonment. So the part that when I was researching this story I had difficulty with was trying to figure out, how did he kidnap his own child? So that we'll get into here in just a second. Kidnapped his own damn child. You didn't have custody to her. You didn't have to put her through this. And that's my point. So when people, even if this is your first time watching, I want y'all to understand that it might seem like I'm very disparaging to the criminals, and I might say things, I might joke and stuff like that. More than anything, I want y'all to remember these babies' faces. We are here to give these stories as a cautionary tale so that no other children have to go through this, because we're trying to put into the minds of people to let them know you have to go out of your way to do something like this. So why do that? Why not just leave this baby well enough alone? Like he looks like he's kind of young. I don't know if they gave the father's age here. I don't see it. It doesn't matter. I'm assuming he's probably in his mid-20s. That's what he looks like to me. McWeay is charged with 13 other counts, including first and second degree child cruelty, kidnapping, and false imprisonment. Those records also show that the alleged abuses span from May of 2021, keep in mind the time frame, May of 2021 to December 2023. Notably, McWeay was charged with battery, family violence for the very first time in June of 2022. Can we get a hashtag when you date thugs, you date death? Hashtag stupid is a stupid thugs. And all of our other hashtags. Hashtag thug zoo, thug lions. So they know that this is a violent person, probably already been knew that. You can see it in his actions. You can tell by how he talks. But here's the problem when women deal with these thug lions, because they think, yeah, I know he's dangerous. Yeah, I know he's a fool, but he'll be a fool for me instead of to me. That's what they believe. But here's the thing with lions. What you don't do, you don't tame lions. You leave the wild lions alone. You leave them in their element, you leave them in nature. Why do we as humans continue to capture animals, put them in captivity, and then think that we can change their nature? That's a hell of a colloquialism, isn't it? Because that's essentially what we're doing. I want y'all to think about that. When you go capture lions, they're supposed to be free and roam in nature and do what nature do. Eagles, prairie dogs, dolphins, whales. They supposed to do what they do. They are not supposed to be in captivity. I think I got that correct. I could be wrong. Maybe some of y'all out there believe it, that zoos are proper things and that we should be out here capturing animals. I just don't think that's the way nature intended it. But nonetheless, I could say some other things, but that'll give me flags, so let me not say that. Police record states that he has estranged himself from his family in recent years, and that one relative said that he suffered from an addiction to ketamine or special K, so he's a drug head. The starvation and severe neglect experienced by Treasure McWeay, the little girl, also extended to two other children in the home, boys ages 3 and 4, according to a copy of an arrest report obtained by Law and Crime. One of the children was autistic, according to police. After a complaint was filed to social services about the unsatisfactory conditions of Rodney McWay's home in Atlanta, Child Services removed the children from the home in late June. But within a week, police said that McWay traveled to Maryland, where the children's mother, Passion Mitchell, lived. Passion Mitchell is the mother of these kids. So I want y'all to hear this and tell me, should I not be at least saying some disparaging things about the mother? I want y'all to tell me when y'all hear these details. So he went from Atlanta to Maryland. He then stole her car, allegedly, and parked it at a train station as he brought the kids back to Georgia. Let me say that again. He traveled from Atlanta to Maryland. How? By train? By what? Airplane? How did he get there? So he had to have had money to travel unless somebody took him there. And if he had money to do that, then why would he not have money for his own car? But it says that he stole her car, left it parked at a train station as he brought the kids back to Georgia. So there you go, train station. So I'm assuming he took a train. So how did he take a train? Like, he ain't got money for a car, but he got money for train tickets. I know it's big difference in cost of car compared to train, but damn. So he went out of his way to steal these kids, allegedly. Last month, when police showed up at the hospital to assess Treasure McWay's siblings, they noted that the boys' injuries included scratches to their face, chest, and back, as well as contusions and bruising. They were both underweight as well. Reports of child neglect and abuse were filed against McWay dating back to 2021, according to police, including a reported incident where he allegedly knocked his son's tooth out. Police said that the siblings were placed in the custody of their aunt while the mom came to Georgia from Maryland to get them. McWay had stopped all contact with her and social services workers once he allegedly kidnapped their children this summer. A copy of the autopsy report was not immediately available to Law and Crime, but Atlanta outlet WXIA reported Tuesday that medical examiners who assessed Treasure McWay confirmed that she was how old? 4 years old. This baby was 4 years old and she weighed 25 pounds. She weighed 25 pounds at the time of her death. and he took these children. To me, that sounds premeditated, and that sounds like murder, because you have to go out of your way to cause this to happen. That bothers me more than anything, because starving a child is one of the most inhumane and cruel things that you could do, because it is a slow and agonizing death. I'm trying to check my audio. Hold on. These faces. We are here to give these stories as a cautionary tale. Okay, I think the audio sounds good. Let's keep going. On average, a healthy child at the same age weigh roughly twice that amount. Even 50 pounds still sounds like that's a bit little, but police observed that the child's face appeared to be malnourished. Matter of fact, I think y'all could actually see that in the picture. Like this one. She doesn't look healthy as far as her weight. The child's face appearing to be malnourished, and the autopsy reported that only 0.5 milliliters or less than an ounce of fluid was actually in her stomach. According to data from Children's Healthcare on childhood hydration, toddlers need 4 cups of fluid every day. School-aged children need 5 cups, and older children need 7 to 8 cups of fluid per day. McWeay, the father, allegedly kept his daughter and sons contained in one room, and would only let them leave that room with his permission. When police responded to the home on December 11th in suburban Atlanta, they found only expired eggs and milk in the home and no other food. This has got to be one of the stupidest MFers imaginable. So he can't afford food, or can't afford to figure out how to do the application online to get food stamps, emergency food stamps, or not working, whatever it is, and you force those children to live in that condition when you can't even feed yourself with nothing. Like, he looks malnourished himself. Like, he don't even look like he eat himself. Why would you go out of your way to do this to these kids? The Gazette also reported that police bizarrely did not find a shred of clothing in the children's home. They noted that there were cameras placed throughout the property. So he had money for security cameras. Ain't that a bitch? Excuse my language. Some were allegedly pointed at the children's beds, so he was trying to monitor them. In a police interview, McWeay allegedly said that his children were not allowed outside, and if his kids need something, he will take it to them. He also reportedly claimed to have left the boys with toys in their rooms. Court records show that McWeay is represented by a public defender, and that he remains detained in Fulton County Jail and held without bond, which I think that's correct. McWay's attorney did not immediately return a request for comment from Law and Crime on Wednesday. McWeay waived his initial appearance at Fulton County Courthouse and is slated to go to a judge by the name of Judge Ashley Drake next week for a pre-indictment hearing on January the 11th. And we hope that the judge gets this right, as far as I think this man needs a life sentence. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. You guys can always help us with our channel, and do me a favor and hit that thumbs up if you're watching this video right now. Share this, share this, share this. It'll bring more people to come watch our channel. Let's watch a couple of news videos.
A father accused of kidnapping his 4-year-old daughter, then starving her to death 2 weeks before Christmas, is now facing a malice murder charge. Rodney McWeay appeared in court today, where a judge ordered him held without bond.
Records show state social services had received multiple reports of child abuse and neglect involving this family, dating back years. For weeks, the Fox 5 I-Team has asked, how did this happen? I-Team reporter Johnny Edwards obtained the DFACS case file and has some answers. Johnny.
That's right, Courtney. To say that little Treasure McWeay slipped through the cracks of Child Protective Services would be a massive understatement. State records show her father kept authorities at bay simply by not answering his door. Now we've learned 2 agencies, one state and one local, are investigating their handling of this case.
They were intentionally neglected, and he resisted any attempt for intervention.
A single father accused of kidnapping, cruelty to children, and starving his own daughter to death faced the judge today. After hearing from an Atlanta homicide detective, the judge adding a charge of malice murder to the 14 felony charges that Rodney McWeay already faces in the death of 4-year-old Treasure McWeay and the alleged abuse of his other children. According to the detective, 31-year-old McWeay is accused of withholding food, withholding water from Treasure, until in her final days, she couldn't stand up or sit up alone.
She was extremely emaciated, just pure bone.
In a far different picture than the one seen here on his Facebook page, but the Fox 5 I-Team has learned Atlanta police now doing an internal investigation into their own conduct in the case. That's because in the months leading up to Treasure McWeay's death, caseworkers from the Division of Family and Children's Services asked police for help at least 3 times after the father allegedly snatched Treasure and her 2 brothers from their mother in Maryland.
It appears to me that a bunch of different systems here failed. And I will say this is one of the more troubling situations I've reviewed.
Atlanta 911.
Fulton County warrants show that at her death, Treasure weighed just 24 pounds, described as extremely malnourished and dehydrated.
Well, I'm trying to get an ambulance over here for a baby that's not breathing.
It all happened beyond this front door. According to the charges, a house of horrors for Treasure and her brothers, ages 3 and 5. The children locked in their rooms. Cameras aimed at their beds. The only food inside, some expired eggs and expired milk. The children watching as their father allegedly beat their mother and their 8-year-old half-sister. While all of these horrific things were happening here, our investigation found that several times these children crossed paths with adults who tried to do the right thing. They called authorities whose job it is to protect children who are being abused. But the steps authorities took wouldn't be enough to protect the children.
She said, I didn't see him feed him anything.
Wanda Polnitz met Rodney through a friend of her daughter. At first, she saw a single father struggling to raise 3 small children. She had a friend who agreed to be the children's live-in nanny. But that friend only lasted 3 nights there.
I called, Children and Family Services and told them I was very concerned. The first thing that came to mind is when those children are gone, he's going to kill those children. He wasn't going to kill them physically. He was going to not feed them like he was doing. He was going to let them starve.
Wanda's call brought DFACS and police to the house in June. According to records, DFACS noted that children seemed hungry, as well as mold on the walls, the stench of urine, and exposed wiring, saying the home is deplorable and the children cry until they are too weak to continue. The father wasn't arrested. DFACS placed the children with their mother, who had already fled to Maryland. Within a few weeks, the father went to Maryland and took the children back. DFACS knew all about it. Records show that for weeks, they tried calling Rodney and knocking on his door, with no answer. The detective testified DFACS asked Atlanta police to check on the children in mid-July.
What happens after someone calls in for a wellness check? What is like the protocol?
An officer would go out to check on the children.
Did an officer go out?
No.
There was another call right before Halloween.
Atlanta 911, non-emergency.
Protocol.
An officer would go out to check on the children.
Did an officer go out?
No.
The detective testified DFACS asked Atlanta police to check on the children in mid-July.
What happens after someone calls in for a wellness check? What is like the protocol?
An officer would go out to check on the children.
Did an officer go out?
No.
They were asked to go check on these children. Did they go? And she replied, no. Let me tell you guys a story real quick, because y'all know I am not a person that's a race baiter. Most of everybody that listens to me knows that. But I will say that this is quite strange. There was a story that happened, I think it was some years ago. It was a handful of years ago. And there was a home alarm that went off in this white lady's house. I'm just telling y'all a story just to show that. And actually, I have a story here later on also to just show, like, I don't know what police are even doing at this point. And I'm not against police. I just don't understand what they're doing. This lady's home alarm went off, and it signaled that they thought that it might be a burglary. So the police showed up, and they hopped this woman's property fence. Hopped over the fence when this woman had signs posted everywhere that her property was being guarded by dogs, plural, guarded by dogs, signs everywhere. You can't miss the signs. So police expect for us to see stop signs and stop lights and yield signals and all of that stuff that I would expect for them to see signs all around your property, right? This police officer hopped the fence, and what ended up happening? Here come the dogs because there is a foreign intruder coming into their property. He shot and killed one of the dogs. He shot and killed her dog. I think the dog was 18 months old. They didn't pay for it. They barely apologized for it. And the woman didn't actually need the police presence. The reason I bring that up is because I wonder, like, it was that important for him to disregard those gates and warning signs that there were dogs there, and you'd kill a dog on this woman's property to just go and check and see if there's a burglary for property, for TVs, watches, chains, earrings, whatever. People usually steal jewelry and money and stuff like that. Stuff that can be replaced. Stuff that a lot of people actually have insurance on. Somebody called and specifically said that these children are in danger. They saw something and said something and begged for the police to show up, and they didn't send a single effing person. Those stories are not necessarily similar, but I don't understand how they can go so extreme in one situation and then just completely be nonchalant when you're talking about children, regardless of what race, what city, wherever. If they're children, if you are getting a phone call, you need to go check on these children. I'm not trying to be one of those people that said that race played a part in this, but it does make me kind of question why. Why didn't they go check on these children who needed the help?
There was another call right before Halloween.
And after 911.
If y'all can, do me a favor. If y'all are listening to the live stream, please hit that thumbs up. I know not everybody's going to disagree, but I did put a poll in the chat. Do y'all think that this man should do life in prison? Because we're still putting this back on the biological father. It's his kids. I say yes, he still needs to be in jail for life for this. Because it's not CPS's responsibility to raise your children. It's not police's responsibility to raise your children. As parents, it is y'all responsibility. Those other organizations are fail-safes put in place in order to try to prevent some of these things from happening. So ultimately, I'm not going to blame the police, but they just didn't do their damn job. That's what we paid them tax dollars for. Tax dollars pay their salary. Yes, there you go. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
I'm non-emergency.
Yeah, this is Fulton County Defense. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Need an officer to meet me at a home. We know he's there.
All right, I'm sending an officer to the location.
But 911 records show it took police more than an hour and a half to arrive. By then, DFACS had left, and police got no answer either. No representative of Atlanta Police would speak to the Fox 5i team about the case, instead issuing a statement. Officers were dispatched to the home, but it does not appear officers had contact with Mr. McWeay or the children during these calls. In an effort to ensure these calls were handled properly, the Atlanta Police Department's Office of Professional Standards has initiated an investigation into these calls.
Let me call this out also, especially with this being Atlanta. I'm going to assume that Atlanta has a lot of black people there, right? I'm just assuming. Atlanta has a lot of black people there. So can we also surmise that people on this police force, maybe the chief, maybe the officers, were black folks? If black folks really, really cared about this situation, don't you think that they could have got some fire up underneath these folks' feet and harried them and got them to this situation? Now, I don't know that to be a fact. I'm just assuming that there were probably a good amount, because I know that Atlanta got a ton of blacks there. It's one of the most populated, large cities that is primarily black. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Attorney Tom Rawlings, who is a former juvenile court judge and former director of DFACS, reviewed the case files. He questioned why DFACS didn't seek an order of access from a juvenile court judge, which he described as sort of like a search warrant for a child.
Why didn't both the police and the agency and others, probation officer, make a stronger effort to ensure that Mr. McWeay especially allowed someone to come in the house, especially after June of 2023, and check on these children? Nobody really pushed the issue, and as a result, this child died.
Saying in a statement that they are also investigating what happened. DFACS said that, quote, "Our thoughts are with those who loved Treasure." The Georgia Office of the Child Advocate is also investigating. We were unable to reach the children's mother, and Rodney McWay's family had no comment. Russ, Cordy?
It is just so unspeakably sad. Obviously, the system failed these children, and Treasure in particular. Do we have any? But first tonight, a man is now behind bars, charged with murder in the death of a 4-year-old boy. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Russ Spencer.
I'm Courtney Bryant. Rodney McWeay now faces multiple charges, including murder. Fox 5's Kim Leffler joins us now from the Fulton County Jail with more. Kim?
Well, Rodney McWeay waived his scheduled first appearance here at the Fulton County Jail earlier this morning. In addition to that murder charge, police have also charged him with cruelty to children, kidnapping, and false imprisonment. Atlanta police took Rodney McWeay into custody Thursday in connection to the death of a 4-year-old boy on Renfrew Court in southwest Atlanta. Officers got called to this home the morning of December 11th, where they discovered the 4-year-old boy who wasn't breathing. Medics rushed the child to the hospital, where he was later pronounced dead. McWeay now faces several charges, including murder, cruelty to children in the first and second degree, kidnapping, and false imprisonment. In addition to the December charges, McWeay also has charges dating back to June of this year and May of 2021. After hearing about the death, neighbors told Fox 5 the family kept to themselves, but they often saw children playing outside.
I don't really know him. When I come to visit my mother, I see him outside playing.
So far, Atlanta police have not said how McWeay is connected to the 4-year-old boy or exactly how he died. Now, we have requested a copy of the arrest warrant in this case to find out more about exactly what led up to this child's death. As soon as we receive that, we'll bring that information right to you. At the Fulton County Jail this evening, Kim Loeffler, Fox 5 News.
Kim, thanks.
So, let's go back to this. Treasure McWeay, 4 years old. If this has been going on since 2021, we are now in 2024. How does he have access to children for that long? People had been calling. The mother knew that her kids were allegedly kidnapped, took her car, and you didn't come bringing the scorched earth to come get your kids if this man kidnapped your kids? To be real with y'all, none of this makes any sense at all. Whether it be family members or the mother not blowing the whistle on this situation, just didn't care, just let it happen. None of it makes any sense, because then I would have to question the biological mother also. Like, how does a man kidnap your children, steal your car, go back to Atlanta where y'all know he's at, you go down there to Atlanta to try to recover your kids, and not able to get them? Maybe I'm just... Look, go to lawandcrime.com and y'all look this article up yourself and tell me how any of this makes any level of sense, because nobody can be this level of dumb. Not the police, not the dad, not the mom, not the family members. And these kids suffered. Why? This man clearly didn't want to be a parent, nor should he ever been allowed to. But then again, you know how we don't get to this point as we use these as a cautionary tale? Don't have kids by men who aren't good parents, who aren't good candidates to be parents. If a man don't have a job, if a man doesn't have a career, something he's doing that's positive. Matter of fact, and I've said this before, women shouldn't have children by men under the age of 30 years old. How many of y'all have heard me say that before? There are some things that I've been trying to put in place and tell people, if you want to avoid situations like this, if you're not sure, there are some very, very basic things you can do. Number one, get a background check. Number two, don't have children with a man under the age of 30 years old. It doesn't mean they're going to be perfect, but it just means that you're just vetting this person a little bit more definitively. Number three, you should know what he does for a living. He should actually have a job. Number four, he should actually be able to take care of himself. Number five, maybe if he don't have a car, maybe he shouldn't be a parent. If he stole your car, then that means he didn't have a car. If he had no clothes, they said he didn't have a shred of clothes for the kids there, and he didn't have any food. So he probably didn't have barely any food for himself either. Why have kids by this person and multiple children? I just think that's a failure on the parents specifically. Why the police didn't show up, they're going to have to pay for that. But let me know what you guys think about this story. To Treasure McWeay, R.I.P. I'm sorry, but none of this makes any sense. And we pray that that baby's soul rest in heaven. But we hope that the dad get a life sentence. We put a poll in the chat. Let me know what you guys think about this story, okay? Thank you. The story of this missing baby is actually going to be an update. So we have some new charges on the biological father in this situation. We've talked about this story before. If you're not sure if I've talked about a story, if you email me or whatever the case is, you could also search our channel and type in a name. And hopefully if I've did it correctly, you should be able to find the story that you're looking for. So this is going to be an update for us. But let me give you guys a disclaimer about my content. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. And we're getting this story from WOW, so wowktv.com. So if you're listening, thank you for the article. Huntington, the father of an infant who disappeared more than 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago. It don't seem like it's been that long. 2.5 years ago has been indicted on charges related to that baby's death. Now, according to Huntington Police Department, Shannon Patrick Overstreet. That's a beautiful baby, too. Let me see if I can get his stupid face on my screen. This man right here, Shannon Patrick Overstreet, faces charges of death of a child by a parent, guardian, or custodian, or other persons by child abuse, murder, and concealment of a deceased human body. The charges stem from the disappearance of his daughter, Angel Overstreet, in May of 2021. It does not seem like it was that long ago, which led to a multi-agency investigation involving agencies from both West Virginia and Kentucky, as well as the FBI. The HPD says that investigators collected evidence indicating Overstreet as allegedly responsible for her death and for concealing her body. Angel Nicole Overstreet, who was last seen in early May of 2021, she was just 3 months old at the time. Authorities first reported that she was missing on May 25th and said that her whereabouts since May 8th could not be confirmed. She was about 3 months old at the time. According to HPD at the time, West Virginia Child Protective Services representatives had contacted authorities saying that they were following up with Angel's father, Shannon Overstreet, on a custody issue from Kentucky. The CPS worker said that he told them he turned Angel over to CPS 2 weeks earlier, but investigators were not able to substantiate a custody exchange. The following day, May 26, HPD officials said that they were concerned for Angel's safety. However, an Amber Alert was never issued due to the amount of time she had already been missing. So for those who don't know, Amber Alerts have to meet a certain criteria. Otherwise, they cannot issue an Amber Alert. So if you might be wondering why, it just didn't meet the criteria. The search for Angel soon spanned in Kentucky, and authorities even drained and searched a pond on her father's property in Carter County, Kentucky, for evidence of her disappearance or even Angel herself. According to the indictment against Overstreet, he is accused of causing her death in West Virginia and then taking her body to Kentucky. Police have not stated if Angel's remains have ever been found. Again, let me repeat. They've never confirmed her remains to be found. Late Friday night, Kentucky State Police said in a press release, through a thorough and exhaustive investigation, those are some big words, sufficient evidence was gathered to enable the Huntington Police Department to secure an indictment for the arrest of Shannon Overstreet. The statement was in relation to a search in June of 2021 at a location in Olive Hill, though no specific location was given. The Huntington Police Department, FBI, and West Virginia Intelligence Fusion Center, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Kentucky State Police, the West Virginia State Police, and Child Protective Services, that's a lot of agencies, from West Virginia and Kentucky were all involved in investigating Angel's disappearance. Overstreet is currently serving a sentence on an unrelated charge of maliciously assaulting his mother and forgery. There's also another big twist to this story, which I will probably put this in the title of this particular video. This man is trying to avoid prosecution on a technicality. It is a technicality that deals with marriage, believe it or not. That is another huge break in this case. So he's trying to avoid being held responsible, but we'll get into that here in a moment. He was sentenced in January of 2023 on the 2022 indictment of assaulting his mother and forgery. That has nothing to do with what I just talked about. In that court case, he is accused of allegedly grabbing the victim by her hair, dragging her through the yard and up the steps, and then allegedly hitting her several times in March of 2021 prior to Angel's disappearance. The complaint states that when the victim went to a medical facility a couple days after the incident, medical professionals found that she had a significant brain bleed. This is a developing story, and WOWK13 will update this article as more information becomes available. Here's the technicality. He's trying to get married in order to not be held accountable for some of these charges. And more specifically, the woman that he's trying to marry, he gets married to her. How about that? Y'all got to hear this. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. And I'll let you guys hear from the news video, but I was just thoroughly shocked when I heard this. So I'll let you guys hear it. Do me a favor, please hit that thumbs up and share this. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Let's get into it.
We are following breaking news just into the newsroom. The father of a baby who has been missing for more than 2 years has now been indicted. Shannon Overstreet has been indicted for the death of a child by a parent by child abuse, murder, and concealment of a body. This is in connection to his 3-month-old child, Angel Overstreet. She was first reported missing in May of 2021. Reporter Lane Ball will have more later tonight on 13 News. A man accused of murdering his infant daughter made a request in court this morning to marry one of the witnesses in the case. Lane Ball has more from the courtroom.
Waive reading, Your Honor, into a plea of not guilty to any and all charges.
Tuesday morning, right here in Cabell County Circuit Court, Shannon Overstreet not only pled not guilty to charges related to Angel Overstreet's death, but he also says he plans to marry a key witness in this case.
I was going for like Valentine's Day, but I don't got one exactly.
That's what Overstreet had to say after the prosecution, citing phone calls made by Overstreet behind bars, made the court aware of his plan to marry one of their key witnesses.
I'm not saying it's his intention to try to cut her off from us as a witness, but that would be the practical effect of it.
According to West Virginia State,
saying it's his,
citing phone calls, says he plans to marry a key witness in this case. Charges related to Angel Overstreet's death, but he also says he plans to marry a key witness in this case. In Cabell County Circuit Court, Shannon Overstreet not only pled not guilty to charges related to Angel.
I hope y'all are listening, because I'm only going to rewind this a couple of times, and then I have a whole video so y'all can hear most of that conversation. He's planning to marry a witness so she doesn't have to testify against him. What woman would love a man so much that you would just flat out be that callous and that cold to what happened to a baby, his own baby? How can a man love you if he can't love his own child? Murder his own child and beat up his own mother and steal from her? Are we that desperate? And I'm talking to ladies in general. I know the ladies in my chat are very smart people. I don't think we would be that level of dumb. But what kind of woman would do that? What kind of woman would marry a man just so he doesn't have to face the murder of his daughter? Listen to this.
Overstreet's death, but he also says he plans to marry a key witness in this case.
I was going for like Valentine's Day, but I don't got one exactly.
That's what Overstreet had to say after the prosecution, citing phone calls made by Overstreet behind bars, made the court aware of his plan to marry one of their key witnesses.
I'm not saying it's his intention to try to cut her off from us as a witness, but that would be the practical effect of it.
According to West Virginia State Code, spouses may be compelled to testify on behalf of each other, but neither shall be compelled, nor without the consent of the other, allowed to be called as a witness against the other, except for an offense committed by one against the other. In other words, Morrison says if Overstreet marries the witness, she will not have to take the stand and testify against him.
Y'all hear that? And they both know this. I'm wondering, since I don't know what lawyer he has. I don't know if he had a public defender or not. How would they find that out as a technicality that she won't have to testify? I mean, however he found that out, it is what it is. Sneaky POS. I agree. Please hit that thumbs up. Please let me know that y'all heard this. See, the judge, this is going to be like this is laws on the books. The judge cannot deny this just based on what he thinks. He has to go with what the law is on the books. That's the problem. So if this man is able to marry this woman and this woman is dumb enough to marry this man, then he gets off, at least on some of this.
With this new information revealed unexpectedly and the judge unsure if he can legally prevent this, both the prosecution and defense say they need some time to look over all the details.
I have not had a chance to properly respond. I believe I'm due at least 5 days.
All I'm asking is we either delay it or perhaps the court will give us permission to have a deposition before we get there.
A deposition which, if approved, would allow the witness's testimony to be used without her physically being in the courtroom. The judge ruled there will be no bond and all parties will return to the courtroom in 2 weeks. No other rulings were made. As the court case moves forward, there's still one question on people's minds. Where is Angel Overstreet? That is still yet to be answered.
For the last few years, people have rallied and held vigils to ensure that Angel is never forgotten.
13 News reporter Lane Ball explains they are hoping that the wheels of justice will move forward for this tiny baby.
I guess it just kind of hit hard today.
Sylvia Butera lives hundreds of miles away in Mississippi, but she's one of many who created a group to answer the question, what happened to Angel Overstreet? When she found out Angel's father had been indicted for her murder, she experienced a roller coaster of emotions.
So if you guys are in that Facebook group, Where is Angel? If y'all are on that Facebook group, now you guys can actually post this in there. Maybe some people already have, and post that information in there that this man is trying to marry this woman for whatever reasons he wants to state that he's trying to marry her. But we believe that he's trying to marry her to get off from her being forced to testify and be called as a witness against him. He's trying to get off of that as far as a technicality. Make sure y'all post that in that Facebook group. That is a hell of a revelation.
I got sick to my stomach, and then I just bawled like a baby. I'm angry. Why does anyone hurt a little bitty baby?
Now, there's still some questions left unanswered, but while so many are dealing with this heartbreak, there's also a sense of relief.
I'm relieved because we don't have to wonder anymore if someone has her or where she's at.
Late Friday night, Kentucky State Police sent out a release saying through an exhaustive investigation, sufficient evidence was gathered from a location in Olive Hill, Kentucky, where Angel could have been located. While the indictment doesn't say if they found Angel's body, whether they have or haven't.
I want to see this through to the end. We all do. We want to see justice for Angel.
In Huntington, Lane Ball, 13 News.
As the court is aware, often jail calls and corrections calls are monitored by law enforcement. And we've picked up a lot of traffic that Mr. Overstreet intends to marry one Clarissa Forrester, if he can get her to do that. And she's a witness in this particular matter. Now, I'm not saying it's his intention to try to cut her off from us as a witness, but that would be the practical effect of it. In fact, I've reviewed to date the transcripts of those calls, and I don't see that he's actually trying to make her unavailable as a witness. He just wants to get married, bottom line. Well, I don't want to stand in the way of true love and all that, but during the pendency of these proceedings, we have that spousal immunity and spousal privilege statute, and if they get married, then I can't use her as a witness.
Do you have any case law that says I have the power to stop a wedding?
I do not have any. I did discuss this with the head of DHS, and he said an order is an order, and if you get me one, we'll follow. But I don't have any case law on it.
I agree with the court. I believe that I don't think you can enter an order stopping any sort of marriage.
I can enjoin it for 2 weeks.
Y'all hear that? Somebody knows their law, and he's definitely trying to take advantage of it.
Well, you can't enjoy true love, as Mr. Morrison stated, but I'd like to...
Mr. Overstreet, do you have a wedding date?
Not yet, sir. I was going for like Valentine's Day, but I don't got one exactly.
Well, let's
5 weeks.
Let's come back in 2 weeks and have this motion.
The investigation continues for Overstreet's infant daughter, Angel Overstreet, who was reported missing 2 months later. Police say she was last known to be with her father, but little information has been released since her disappearance. 13 News reporter Lane Ball has the latest on the case.
Angel Overstreet was first reported missing on May 25, 2021. She was 3 months old. It all started when West Virginia Child Protective Services said they were following up with Angel's father, Shannon Overstreet, on a custody issue from Kentucky. CPS workers confronted Overstreet, but he told them he turned Angel over to CPS 2 weeks earlier. Yet the agency said they had no record of that happening. Huntington police then took over the case, and that's when they discovered the last date anyone had contact with Angel was May 8th.
By the time the information came to us, the last known contact with the child was over 2 weeks away.
In June of 2021, HPD, Kentucky State Police, the U.S. Marshal's Office, and the FBI executed a warrant to drain a pond on Overstreet's property in Carter County, Kentucky. However, no evidence was found during this search. The latest update on this case came from HPD back in December 2021, and officials basically said the case will remain active until new information comes to light.
Let me go ahead and close that out, and I'm going to give my closing thoughts. Like I said, I think it's disgusting, but, you know, if there are loopholes in the law, that's why they're just meant to be tied up, voted on, and that's why whenever you guys vote and who you vote for is so important, because a situation like this, if this man is able to somehow thwart his responsibility for the death and disappearance of his baby for all these years, and for all of these different people from FBI to police to Child Protective Services, if he is able to beat all of them, I would be absolutely surprised. So you said they never found her. So Stormy, they have specifically stated that they don't want to say whether they found her body or not, which to me is just like, why can't they say that? I don't know if they're trying to protect something in the case. I don't know. But they are literally intentionally saying that they're not going to say whether they have found her or not. So I guess we'll just have to roll with that for now. But this is a very, very big one. Like I said, if he gets married and is able to prevent her from being a witness, being called as a witness, it's going to be very, very bad for this case. So keep prayer hands up that we want to get justice for this baby in this case against this alleged father. All these years that this has been going on, let's try to get some justice, and we need to get justice ASAP, okay? Let me know what you guys think. Thank you.